Hey, welcome back to another episode of Another Look. This is our podcast here on the River 95.3 Sports Radio 1450, where we go ahead and take another look at the news that's been happening over the course of this week, right before Labor Day.
Yes.
That beautiful, beautiful pie-in-the-sky weekend that we've all been waiting for. That's been happening across the Shenandoah Valley. Bunch of stuff this week. Bunch of bureaucratic stuff, I thought.
Well, because you were on vacation last week, so all the red tape had to come bubbling back up to the surface.
Yeah.
I'm Janet Michael, host of the Valley Today.
This is Janet Michael, host of the Valley Today. I'm Dylan Nicholls, your news director here at the River 95.3 Sports Radio 1450.
Yes, and it is.
Station.
We're recording on a Friday like we normally do, but it is 5:35, so it is much later in the day that we're recording today than normal.
And today has been a dark day. It's been awful because our operations manager is on vacation, and we love him, and he needs to be on vacation because he works harder than anybody. And we figured out today why he works harder than anybody, because everything that could possibly go wrong with the AM stations just set up it's just a software issue, and it happened today, and we were on support with customer service. That's right. We basically, when something goes wrong on the radio station, we go off air. We do exactly what you do when you want to get your Xbox Live set up. We call customer support. That's our system.
Yeah. Well, you know how some people are afraid to take vacations because they're afraid that everybody that they work with is going to find out how little they do, and they're not going to be missed, and nobody's going to notice.
It's the opposite with this crew.
It is totally the opposite with this crew.
And the person, the minute you have, it almost makes the vacation better because nobody's going to ever think this job is easy when you try to train someone in your job before you leave, because the training process is so intensive in itself. You're just like, maybe I just won't go on vacation. Maybe it's easier that way.
Although I will point out that, you and I were the shining stars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We
have had no issues with any of the things that were assigned to us to take care of in his absence.
We've been crushing it. Lonnie made us it's pathetic, really, but he made us this big blue binder that's called the What If book. We call it the Bible. And we've just been we've almost been throwing that Tom Brady style to one another across the room, all right, fix it.
Yep.
So, but we put it all together. But how about, all right, let's stop boring these people.
But there isn't a page in there for what if Janet shows up to work drunk, because that is about to happen. I'm telling you, if he had taken a 2-week vacation, that should have been the cover sheet. The title should have said, what if Janet shows up drunk?
You don't show up to work drunk, but you're going to leave work drunk by the end of this day. You're going to untape that flask from the bottom of your desk and hit it, man.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all right, so let's talk about what stories did you want to talk about in the next segment?
Okay, so here's the thing. Because it's been so crazy, I have not read any of your stories for this week. So what I did, literally 5 minutes ago, was skimmed all of the headlines on our website, and I have 4 stories that I want to ask you what they are.
So this is even more work for Dylan.
This is pop quiz dilly time.
All right, we'll try it. I don't know how good my memory is going to be right now. I don't know. I'm feeling a little faint after today, but we'll see what happens. I've got just a handful of stories here. I don't even know what I want to talk about. So much happened today.
Well, maybe some of them are, ones that I want to probably not matter all.
Well, here's one we have in common. The Winchester held a public hearing on the fate of those historic buildings, those 5 buildings that were in the city's historic district that they wanted to knock down for the new development. And the thing that we both touched on.
And we talked about that in a previous episode.
We did talk about that in a previous episode. So it's kind of been a developing story. And the thing we kind of both touched on before we started recording, is that the preservation of historic Winchester made an interesting graphic, it turns out. And they spoke at the public hearing. A lot of people spoke. So we'll talk about that for sure. I want to throw a shout out to Front Row on the Jaywalking Ordinance in the next segment. I think that's important. And I kind of want to talk about these Strasburg High School fights, too. Some charges are coming down on these kids' heads.
I have a funny story for you about that. It's not about the actual fights themselves, but that happened while you were on vacation. So I have to tell you how that story came to be the way that it was on the website. You'll get a kick out of it.
It's funny because I come back from vacation and all I see are the charges. And I'm like, when did this happen? So, all right. So we'll talk about some Strasburg fights. We'll talk about some demolition derby happening in the heart of Winchester. We'll talk about it all when we come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And we're back with some more Another Look, segment number 1. we've got a lot to talk about. We might just tackle it all in this segment since we don't have our own individual stories picked out. We're just kind of like
recapping,
hodgepodge, and just it's mixed bag day here on Another Look. I want to start with your list.
Okay.
What have you got on your list? Because I may or may not remember these stories fully. You might just get some garbled sort of half-awake Dylan version of these stories, which could be even more fun. Let's start with that.
All right. Well, I want to start with your first complaint.
That's right.
Yeah, so there was a story that you covered, I believe, before you went on vacation about a stabbing in Middletown.
No, after.
Oh, okay.
This was early this week.
And then you did a follow-up story when that person was charged. Because there were two stories.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, the original crime. So I thought that...
So Cooper may have covered the original crime. I don't know. It's all a blur.
It is.
Yeah. But anyways, there was a fight on Main Street in Middletown at like 4 o'clock in the morning. It didn't wake me up, so I didn't know what was going on. But I'm also a block off of Main Street, so that could be. Domestic dispute.
How does that make you think? How does that make you feel that scissor fights are happening in your neighborhood and people are running around?
Domestic dispute. Guy meets girl gets mad at guy says something wrong, girl stabs him with scissors and then runs away.
Isn't that the plot of You've Got Mail?
I know it might be. But they ultimately found her, I think in downtown Winchester. She was charged with malicious wounding.
Yeah.
You did the story. You put the story up on the website. You listed her name because why wouldn't you?
How far is downtown Winchester from Middletown?
Maybe 20 minutes by car.
Okay, but did she take a car? I wonder.
She had to have. Yeah, because it would have taken her a lot longer to walk.
Well, they found her 2 hours after the incident.
No, it would have taken her longer than 2 hours. 2 hours, she might have made it to Stephen City or Kernstown, but she's not going to make it to downtown Winchester.
I don't
she might have had a scooter.
I don't think you have enough. Don't scooter with scissors. Kids, it's very, very dangerous. Do not scooter with scissors.
And did you have flashbacks when you were doing this story about the scissors to the Another Look that we did and your dumb news story?
Shameless plug. There's a fantastic Another Look. I think it's actually called Don't Run with Scissors.
It might be.
And it's up on the website here.
Yeah.
So check that one out because the last 20 minutes of that or 10 minutes of that are just a complete... Can I swear on this?
Go ahead. I'll mark the explicit box.
Shit show. I mean, like we lost our shit. We we lost our minds and we were crying.
Yeah.
You too. You were in it too. We were both crying. We were laughing so hard because we were delirious. It was another 5:30 on Friday kind of day. And just for context, I usually get up at 4 a.m., but I was even more stressed out today. It was almost like I lost 2 hours of sleep instead of gained an hour because I woke up late and my body clock had to wake me up because my alarm didn't go off, and so it undid everything.
We're supposed to be talking about the news. Nobody
go on
cares
about
scissors.
Rituals. Scissors, please, Janet, scissors.
So you do the story.
Yeah.
You publish this woman, 29. I don't even remember her name. Carrie something,
it's
maybe?
O'Connor's her last name, I believe.
Yeah, maybe it's Carrie O'Connor. That might be it.
Yeah.
She was charged with malicious wounding. Well, her brother called in after you left the other day.
Called the station.
I
wish I'd
very
taken
upset.
That. I wish I'd
very
that.
Annoyed. Apparently, she didn't use scissors.
Which I have to double check because I'm pretty sure that the reports I was reading said she used scissors. Yeah.
And it was just a scrape. Wasn't really a cut, he said.
Well, the report I read definitely said it was 1.5-inch wound.
Yeah. And he what was the other thing he said? For the boyfriend ended up bailing her out. She was released on bond that he made for her. And it was all his fault because he started it anyway. I think it was pretty much the gist of the conversation when he was complaining. But he basically called in because he didn't think it was right that you put her name on the web story. He heard her name on the air on the 4 o'clock news, and that was just atrocious. And we needed to take that down and print a retraction.
Oh, he's got a point because she didn't commit a crime or anything.
Malicious wounding. I said, well, the judge will decide that in December when she's doing court.
Dude, my heart goes out to these people too because I think that's, in all honesty, I do think that that's an incredibly scary experience when something like that happens, and you think of it as sort of like kind of an embarrassing community matter, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, like you see it in every newspaper, and then you're driving in your car and you cannot even get away from it when you tune into your favorite station, the River 95.3.
The Hagerstown TV station picked it up.
Oh, my God. This guy, he must have had like tinfoil on the blinds. Oh, man, this poor guy. Yeah.
I wanted to give you the props because, you're not a real news person
until
somebody calls to complain about a news story you've done.
Yeah. Next step, my own Steele dossier.
So
I'm just going to make it up, though. I'm not
so way late in the day for that. All right, my next question. I didn't read the story. Did they approve the cell tower in Jim Barnett Park or not? Because that guy quit and got left in a huff from the committee and all that. So where does that stand?
Oh, God. I got to, because, hold on one second, because I believe I printed this out somewhere.
What?
Here. Yeah, no. They tabled that whole discussion, and it escalated today. The story, technically it escalated Tuesday, and then Thursday there was a new development. But essentially, good old Councilman McInturf in the Winchester City Council, McInturf, whatever. I'm sorry, but it boils down to a matter of opinion at a certain point when they're phonetically
it's McInturf.
Spelled a certain way. Yeah. But, okay, well, anyways, McInturf accused Eden Freeman, city manager, and I believe the head of the Parks and Rec Board, again, I don't have the story in front of me, and it's been a while, of basically negotiating with Chantel on this lease and on the financial aspects of this thing without consulting the city attorney or city council.
Oh,
doing it on their own. So there's been a lot of developments in that, a lot of weird little things. The actual city attorney, his name, Mr. Williams, I forget his first name.
Ian? Is it Ian Williams?
I don't believe it's
maybe
Ian.
Not. I think he's a judge.
I want to say
now.
it's like Andrew.
That could be.
But basically, Williams went ahead and said, no, they consulted me back in April on these Chantel negotiations and brought me in on it. But McInturf is claiming that Williams intimated to him that actually they had started the negotiations before he was even involved, before even in April. And so now it's a thing where Wiley, who's the city council president, he's actually releasing now like documentation and email chains and things, like little bits of them that basically show that no, they didn't do it, but it's still really unclear, and little bits of information are coming out here and there. And this is all just kind of casting a dirty shade on what's already been like a really controversial project. I mean, the head of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board resigned. It was the chairman of that board, I believe.
Yeah,
resigned. Bentley, your guy. He resigned over this matter alone, saying if the Winchester City Council would ignore the advice of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, then he doesn't see the point of the board at all. And there's a point to be made there, and I think you actually agreed with Bentley on that. So it's been a very contentious issue. The tower itself, in case you don't remember from our previous podcast, basically what it is it's 100 feet tall.
What was that whole thing?
I was trying to do a swallow away from the mic. I do this to Randy all the time in the mornings. I duck down, swallow, and then come back up, so I don't sound like that. Except that was like a horrible, it looked like I had a seizure.
Bringing dumb news to you a little early today.
Dumb news a little early. But the tower itself is going to be 100 feet tall, if memory serves. It's going to be on a parcel of land. They hope to have it, Chantel does, on a parcel of land that they've called optimal for the tower project, 40 by 40 foot parcel. It's located in the Lester P. Singhas BMX.
Yeah, it's over on the far end of the park. It's not really. It's not like it's in the middle of the park or near the playground or something.
You say Jim Barnett Park and you say cell tower in the park.
That's all they hear.
And people freak out, and for good reason. I mean, because even if it's on the edge of the park, or if it's looming over the park, that's awful.
It's technically looming over 81, but okay.
But they've tabled discussions in part because they want to give. One of the councilmen actually had worries about whether or not it would be safe to have a 100-foot tall tower in the park. I don't know that he had any evidence that there was a risk of it falling down or any structural support to that.
I don't know. Then BMXers might want to climb the tower. That could be a safety issue.
Very possible. Those fellas, they're hard fellas.
Hey, yeah, man.
But
they're adventurers.
Oh yeah. Good word. He made it sound like Dora the Explorer somehow. These BMX guys. But yeah, they're concerned about that, and they table discussions. But it sounds like they table discussions purely so that Chantel could redo its design to make it at least more attractive aesthetically.
It's a cell tower.
It's a cell tower.
Really,
it's going to be what it's going to be. So
I put hanging flower baskets off of it. I mean, really, how are you going to make it? They're going to make it look like a giant Christmas tree in the wintertime. And I mean, yeah.
Hey, we could have our own Central Park. But yeah, so that's that whole issue right there. And honestly, we're going to see what happens on that. But keep your eyes peeled on the newspapers. They're probably going to be publishing stuff after September 11th because that's the big meeting. And you know that we'll be covering it too, so tune in. because it's that's when we'll know more, and that's when we'll hear probably a little more about these accusations against the city manager and this Parks and Rec person.
And in what time frame.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this is a good spot for a break here.
Okay.
So let's stop right here, and we'll come back for another segment. And I've got a couple stories I want to touch on. My segment's probably going to be really quick, and then
because we all know everybody wants to hear me anyway, so that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to take away your time, Janet. Your time is very valuable to me.
Hey, I was here last week. I was here last week. I just want to say I was here last week.
I cannot wait for your vacation.
I don't get a vacation. I never take a vacation.
Oh, that's right. Because you're, yeah.
Because I'm too valuable.
And with that little bit of spin, we're going to take a quick break. And we'll be back pretty soon here after a few words from our sponsors, which is so far ourselves, with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And we're back with the next segment of Another Look.
Where'd we go?
We went pretty far. And that entire, I think for them, it's 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Or maybe a minute and a half.
It depends on which spot it is.
Yeah, I think I put 2 spots.
I think yours is a minute.
I think I put 2 spots, but it's 2 30-second spots, so it might be a minute total. Yeah. But
it's
I don't know if you hear
these
ruffling papers, but we've got a lot to. I hit my mic. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, let's talk about this because we didn't touch on that in your segment. The historic buildings.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the image that they made? Well, I mean, first let me give them an overview. Basically, the EDA for Winchester has for a while now, back in like last winter, it purchased up all these properties in this corner of North Kent and East Piccadilly streets in Winchester.
Good job saying Piccadilly right.
Piccadilly. And it bought up all these properties there with the intent of demolishing them and putting up this big new development, 45 to 48 upper floor residential units, ground floor parking, retail stores, the works, a lot of stuff. And a lot of people really want to see it happen. A lot of people are really excited about it. A lot of people are not. And one group that is absolutely not is Winchester's Board of Architectural Review. They denied a request from the EDA to destroy 5 buildings because these 5 buildings are in the city's historic district. One of them was built in 1850. So very, very old buildings. The problem is I think they're mostly, if not all, vacant. And don't look great.
Yeah, they haven't been maintained at all, and yeah.
But they're historic buildings. So their argument is not without merit. So they blocked the EDA and their developer that they're working with on July 19th. That happened. And so the EDA, ever since then, it's sort of been a back and forth, and they were debating with the city council, hey, we want this. BAR's like, hey, no.
Or what if we do that?
I mean, it was basically like a debate where like the city council with the parents separating the 2 kids, and it was pretty heated. So now what's happened is on Tuesday, Winchester held a public hearing on the issue, and everyone got to speak out on it. Now, basically, some people said that it's a great thing, this development. It'd be a catalyst for other projects and investments in the area. It would keep Winchester relevant. We need that. I feel like Winchester has, from what I've been reading, an affordable housing issue, especially for single people looking for an apartment, and so that maybe it could fulfill those needs. However, opponents are saying you're basically damaging the historic integrity of the city when you do something like destroy these 5 buildings. One of them built Janet. I see you rolling your eyes.
You can't destroy the historical integrity of an entire city by removing 5 blocks on the outskirts of said city.
Slippery slope, Janet. Slippery slope. Where does it end, Janet? Where does it end? First, you're knocking down those 5 buildings. Pretty soon, you're tearing down Rouse City Hall. How old is that building? I don't know how old that is.
It's old. It's older than me.
Old. That is old. No. Jan's very young. But
we can't record this after 5 anymore. It's just uncontrollable. There's no.
We're just like animals after 5. Oh God. So basically, one interesting comment that the Preservation of Historic Winchester organization made when they spoke on the public hearing is it was one person, Edward Acker from there, and he was quoted as saying, can we improve the existing historic buildings and tie them into the new construction? I think most people would say the problem with that is it becomes less, if not entirely, non-economically viable for this development. And beyond that, this wasn't even the first issue this development faced. There was an issue with compliance with the Green Circle.
Oh, yeah, with the green space around.
The green space regulations. Green Circle is a different thing, but the green space regulations in Winchester. They also needed the city to concede to them, like a very small parcel of land so they could comply with something else. It might have been the green space that they needed that land for. And that I don't think that happened.
No.
So they already had that obstacle, which threatened to make it not commercially viable. And now they've got this, which threatens to just bulldoze the entire project. And on top of everything, what did the PWH do, this Historical Society?
I don't know what the PWH did, but the PHW.
Oh, I knew I was going to do that. I knew I was going to do that.
It's on their Facebook page. They had one of their members actually do like a simulated rendering of what that corner, the streetscape would look like if that building were there, and how it would block the view, and what it would appear to be if that building were in that space.
And they put that on Facebook, so I think that means that we can share that on our website.
Oh, yeah.
Which I really want to do because I think it's very interesting. They admit to everyone like accurate within like 5 to 10 feet in terms of like actual size and all that, because we do the best that we can. But when you make like a rendering like that, it's hard not to make it look ridiculous and like you're trying to make it look really bad. But what they did is they made it almost opaque, so you can actually see when you look at the picture, you see both what it looks like with it there and what it looks like without it there. Yes. You can see through it into the background, but still understand that that's what it would block if it was there. Yeah. Very interesting image. I thought it was well done.
I think they should just put their new development on stilts and put it over top of these old buildings until they completely fall down, and then they can make it a park underneath. There you go. Problem solved.
A park with no sun?
Well, yeah, it'll be a shade park.
A BMX track, maybe?
Yeah. There you go. They can move the BMX track there and then leave the cell tower for all.
Janet, you should be a dictator, because I swear you can make the most dystopian society.
I can fix it all.
I'm imagining your dystopian society where people are motorcycling under a 5-apartment complex.
Hey, it could work.
It could work. Yeah. It could work. Other than that, let's talk really quick. Well, first of all, shout out to Front Royal. Congratulations, because we're big fans of the STOPS program, the pedestrian safety program. We've had Robbie Seal. We've had William Seawalk.
Smart towns observe pedestrian safety.
That's what it stands for. All about that pedestrian safety. And we've had them on the News at Noon before. Mm-hmm. Robbie's been on Valley Today several times. And they've both been advocating this, especially because there were a few semi-recent incidents now, but they happened a few months ago, and they happened kind of in a row. So there's a real intense effort. And
I was almost one of those people.
Really?
I was going to run down one of them pedestrians.
Oh, God.
But that's a whole other thing.
I thought you were saying you were a victim. Yeah. Of course you were in the car.
And while you were gone, there was an incident where somebody did strike a pedestrian. No, it was the incident where it was a road rage incident. I think Cooper covered that story.
Oh, I saw that.
And there was a road rage incident where they came off of 66. They made it all the way through town here to what I call the Blue Tops, which is the industrial park. And then there was an altercation and a pedestrian was run over. I actually, so I sent a text to Chief McGalis and Robbie Seal, letting them know that wasn't me, that I had nothing to do with that after my last conversation with them about
just running over these annoying pedestrians. Well, there will be a shortage of, pedestrians breaking the rules now, because this jaywalking ordinance, essentially, Virginia State Code says that it's illegal to jaywalk anyways, but what the town wanted to do to give the public proper notice and to advertise this properly and to put it through the proper channels too, so nobody could say, hey, this isn't official, or we didn't know about it, or it's not in the town code. They wanted to put it in the town code. And the maximum fine is $250 if you are caught not using a crosswalk when it is possible, ignoring a signal when you shouldn't have. And that is if you do a Class 4 misdemeanor version of this jaywalking, where your jaywalking could have actually resulted in bodily harm. If you just did it, and it didn't create a situation.
You managed to get across the road before traffic came around the turn. Then you're okay.
And there was no bodily harm, but you still are jaywalking, and they catch you. That's up to $100 fine. Yeah. So it's still not great. I mean, why do it at this point?
Because I'm going to run you over.
Yeah.
I'm done. My patience is at the end. You walk out in front of me, not in a crosswalk. And I mean, some days it doesn't matter if you're even in a crosswalk. I am gunning for you.
Oh, my God.
And that's what I told Chief McGales when he came in that day to talk about National Night Out. I said, we could solve this whole problem right now. And he's like, really? How? I said, go back to the point system. Remember how you used to get, I'll give you 10 points for that one. I'll give you 4 points for that one. And you start assigning points to these people, they will not jaywalk. They will stay away from the cars. I'm telling you.
Threaten everybody?
Yes,
Is that your...
Again, the dictator. I got the solutions.
You would be the cruelest...
Yeah. The funeral homes would love me. Oh, my God. Did I just say that?
I can't believe you just said that. What is Janet in Russian?
I'm totally going to look that up, though.
Yeah. I'm really curious now, because that's all I'm going to call you the second
Yeah, when we go to the next break, I'm going to ask the phone to see if she can translate that for me. We're going to find out.
The Valley Today with Vladimir Michael. And I think we better end it there before we get in too much trouble. I did want to say, oh my God, all these Strasburg high school kids beating each other up in these crazy fights that are videotaped.
Oh, yeah.
And shit everywhere.
So I got to tell you.
Yeah.
So Cooper was here. He covered that.
That's right. You had the inside scoop on that.
Well, not on the story at all. This is just a funny inside scoop about the station and how things work here.
Right.
So Coop was putting these stories up. I go in and I tweet them and I, put them out and whatnot. So I had gone in and was looking at this headline. And the headline he originally chose for that story, what did the headline end up being?
I don't have this story here. I have this follow-up story where they actually get charged.
I think it was student fighting at Strasburg High School. I think was what the headline...
No, it was Strasburg High School fights. I remember this now.
Well, when Cooper originally did this story, the headline was Strasburg fights.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it. That was all it said. So I went back to Liz and I'm like, look at this headline, Strasburg fights. And she looks at me and she says, Strasburg fights what, Godzilla? Okay. So, yeah, I fixed that for you. I mean, for him. I mean, for you. I mean, for all of us.
Who knows? It's just one big family at this point.
That's what we do. See, this is how we all cover for each other.
Yeah, it is. But I just wanted to say the inside scoop on that story, if you haven't read it already in the paper, which you probably have if you read the paper, because it's, who can resist that headline? But basically, these Strasburg fights were created over social media posts over the summer. Lots of tensions were building up, apparently, over the summer. Comments were made.
Yeah. You bring them all together in a confined space, and kablam.
And right there's an interesting conversation we could have about social media, but... We are way over time. we won't even get into that.
But we're so entertaining, people don't even notice that we're way over time.
Yeah, but I do.
And they're hanging in there waiting for the next segment.
But at 6 o'clock on a Friday. I know this, Jen. All right, so we're going to take an end to this segment right now. And when we come back,
dumb news.
The big dumb. When we come back with some more Another Look.
It's an award-winning lunch hour every day at noon with the News at Noon and Valley Today. Listen live on air, online, or on demand at theriver953.com. That's theriver953.com.
And we're back with some more Another Look. This is our dumb news portion. This is where we have a duel. The dumb news duel. It's famous at this point. If you haven't heard of it, crawl out from that rock you're living under and come join us because it is fun. We find the most ridiculous national news story that we can, and we go ahead and see whose is worse. They usually end up being dumb crime stories. I've got a great dumb crime story, but I'll go ahead and ask, Janet, do you want to start?
I will start.
Okay. Hit me.
All right. So I didn't actually find this story.
Oh,
someone gave this story to me that was a guest on the Valley Today this week when we were chatting about Another Look. She had no idea we do this thing. I don't know how people don't know this happens, but she did go in and subscribe.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, I've got a story then for your dumb news. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Flesh-eating STD allegedly reported in England.
Oh, my God. You know what? Though? Like, honestly, leave it to the Brits, right? Like, leave it to those guys. Like, add that to the list.
I'm going to feel comfortable reading this.
I can't believe... Also, like, all of your stories end up being about, like... Last week it was washing condoms.
No, that was a couple of weeks ago.
That was a couple of weeks ago? I mean, insane. But I'm curious.
I did find another one.
Is the flesh-eating does it have a name? Does it have a name? This thing? Did the guy who discovered it?
It is called Dillanosis. No, it is called. It is not part.
You say Dillanosis? Oh, what is it called?
Donovanosis.
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 Oh, did some guy named Donovan get it?
It could be, or spreaded it, or whatever.
Oh God, I wish it was like a real like British name, like Cheshire, like some sort of like really obvious like bad toothed sort of name.
Yeah, and apparently it doesn't go away very easily.
Well, one would think it would not, would it? One would think that a flesh-eating bacteria would make itself a home.
Well, so here's my concern, because I hadn't actually read the story. I read the headline, thought that's all I really need to know. It's got to be a horrible story. I printed it, and that's it. So I'm literally reading this for the very first time.
Have you discovered Donovan?
So no. But this whole thing came to light because of a Freedom of Information request.
They were hiding the flesh-eating sex disease?
Apparently, was
this like a government test or something?
Yeah,
Thanks,
It
Churchill.
is a rare sexually transmitted disease that caused flesh-eating ulcers on patients' genitalia has popped up in England. That was a poor choice of words. An unnamed female patient.
No, all right, no. From now on, you have to read it with a British accent.
I can't. I don't have a British accent.
Flesh-eating disease has popped up in England. You have to read it with a British accent, please.
I don't have a British accent.
Cockney.
I only know how to be South.
That's right. That's right. You were born on the Green Mile.
Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
It was pretty gross. It's just pretty gross. As I'm reading, it's getting grosser and grosser the further down in the story I get.
I'm going to tune into NPR every single morning now for that BBC, CBC.
Oh, yeah. I don't usually listen to NPR when the BBC, because it's on from 9 to 10, and I get it. I got enough bad news coming from this country. I do not need to know what the heck is happening in other countries.
I get it. I get it at 4:30 a.m., and I get their business daily. Oh. So I don't know if unless the Business Daily is like the guy who makes the medicine for this, I doubt I'm gonna get it. But
yeah,
oh man,
so that was it. Can you beat flesh-eating STDs?
Well, I gotta say the stakes are lower in my story, but boy, does it have heart. It's a great story. All right, so there was this really nice 45-year-old man. And he has this great habit of, basically online dating with wonderful women, being very sweet and kind to them on all of the dates, and taking them out to like a really nice restaurant. Okay. Except every single time he takes them out to a restaurant, without fail, he immediately like dashes when the check comes. He says he has to go to the bathroom. He has said he has to go get his phone charger out of his car, and he bolts. He runs away. He has done this. There are 7 counts of extortion against him for how he's affected these ladies. Not even
what kind of expensive restaurants is he taken to that it rises to the level of extortion?
Well, he's extorted the ladies, right? Like basically like taking the money from them by tricking them, kind of a thing.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't it have to be a certain, like a felony versus a misdemeanor? Well, doesn't extortion have to be, I mean, is he taking them to $100 a plate dinners?
If you, I don't know exactly, but I think the total amount of money.
Your Law and Order charges. You should watch Law and Order more often. You'll know.
It was 8 defrauded victims, and he ended up owing people more than $950.
Ouch!
Over the course of these 8 people. Those are some nice meals.
Yeah,
those are some actually really nice meals.
That's not Olive Garden that he's taking these chicks to.
No, I mean that's not. Well, I'm saying is there something wrong with Olive Garden?
No, but
Olive Garden's great.
You know how many times you'd have to eat at Olive Garden to rack up a $950 bill? Especially if it's during Never Ending Pasta Bowl.
That's a lot of lasagna fritas. Yeah. that's a lot of stromboli. Yeah, but so basically it's just how he was called the Dine and Dash Dater. They like the alliteration. That his name is actually Paul Guadalupe Gonzalez. But I got to be honest. I read this story and you know what I thought to myself immediately? Take that, ladies.
You suck.
I thought to myself, that is a good man.
Is why you don't have a girlfriend.
I thought to myself, this is a guy who sees a problem and takes action and ponies up to the $950.
You know what? I defended you this week.
Yeah,
I stood up for you and did not let somebody do something that they joked about doing.
What's that?
Because, we moved my kid into his apartment in Frederick last weekend.
Yeah.
So we have now been reduced to, it's been so crazy around here. I go home and I'm literally exhausted. I'm brain dead. I don't want to think. I don't want to have a conversation. Collapse. God love my husband.
Yeah.
So we have literally been watching. The other night we were watching television and the remote control was on the coffee table that was too far for me to reach to change the channel.
Yeah.
So we sat through 2 hours.
Janet.
Of Bachelor in Paradise.
Did you actually?
I will never get those 2 hours back. Even worse, the next night, I had to watch another 2 hours because I needed to know who they got off this island.
So you got hooked on the series, basically.
But everybody here was suggesting, maybe we should put Dylan in on Bachelor in Paradise. Well, I can tell you right now, after that little snide comment, you're not going to find the love of your life on some island.
No.
We are not sending you to a Mexican island.
Submit my application. Hey, she'd be lucky to find me. She'd be lucky to pay for my $950 meals. Oh, that's what I say. With that.
Yeah, no, done.
We're done.
Yeah, and that's it. I'm not even going to give you, I was going to tease you with the headlines for the stories I might be using in the coming weeks, but one of them involved a wet willy. Do you know what a wet willy is?
I do know what a wet willy is. Janet, my ears know what a wet willy is. I went to high school.
You know a wet willy when you hear one. Is that what you're saying?
I went to high school. I know what a wet willy is. Oh, man. So we got that to look forward to. More mature stories coming up.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do a quickie this week and just throw one in that's just a dumb news story.
Yeah.
Or not this week.
Yeah, not this week.
Not this week.
You said this week, and I just...
maybe when we come in on Sunday to do that little bit of work, maybe we'll stay an extra 10 minutes and record one and throw it up on the website Tuesday or Wednesday.
Huh?
Hey, you never know. You'll have to subscribe or go to the website to find out.
You will. And with that...
And, wait, before we're done.
Yeah.
September 11th.
Yeah.
You don't even remember.
No, it's the Take 3 recording, and then we're also taking this, and we are... That's right. Today, that is the premiere date for this on the air.
Yeah.
So the one
that we record next Friday will have to be a little bit cleaner. You won't be able to check the explicit box.
Yeah. So we're going to basically record a cleaner, shorter version of Another Look. We're probably going to make it an hour-long total with commercials.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead and put that sucker on the air.
Not even just on the air, on the FM.
On the FM air. You know how coveted that space is? And that's going to happen right after the afternoon drive.
Yeah.
So check it out. Because it's going to be on there. So with that, for anything else, you're going to have to subscribe. That's it. Yep. We're closing the curtain. That's all you get.
Done.
This has been Another Look.